When Nelson Mandela was sworn in as South Africa's first democratically elected president in 1994, he became a symbol of hope for a nation that just overturned apartheid.
We must therefore act together as a united people for national reconciliation, for nation building, for the birth of a new world. Let there be justice for all. Let there be peace for all. Let there be work, bread, water, and salt for all.
Mandela spent 27 years in prison before he could realize his dream of a new South Africa. His vision included universal access to jobs, education and housing, as well as sharing the country's natural resources. But 24 years after Mandela took the ANC party to power, little of that optimism remains. Unemployment in 1994 stood at around 20%, having risen to 27% today. Youth unemployment is even higher, at around 50%. GDP growth has been patchy and slow over the years, increasing from 3.2% in 1994 to 5.6% in 2006. It then crashed to minus 1.5% 3 years later, before recovering to 1.5% this year. Inflation was running at around 14% before 1994, recovering to about 4.5% today. The division between black and white seems as wide as ever. A World Bank report says South Africa has the highest inequality in the world. Researchers say more than 90% of national wealth is owned by 10% of South Africans, who are mainly white. About 80%, who are mostly black, own nothing. Yet the country has come a long way. The anti-apartheid activist inherited a country on the verge of civil war. He carried it from the dark days of apartheid to its position as one of the continent's biggest economies. His fight for the lifting of international trade sanctions brought back foreign investment.
The stock exchange has in recent months responded positively to the return of the foreign investor with the lifting of sanctions and to the prospect of a democratic and therefore legitimate government, which will bring the stability that is needed.
GDP per capita between 1993 and 2008 grew 36%, doubling the size of the black middle class. Millions of people gained access to clean drinking water and electricity, and the country joined the BRICS group of the world's most important emerging market economies. Today, many believe Madiba saved the nation, but it remains a work in progress. The ruling ANC party has been mired by scandals involving high-level corruption in recent years, mainly under the rule of former President Jacob Zuma, who was forced to step down. Speaking at Mandela's 100-year anniversary, former US President Barack Obama urged South Africans to continue the fight for equality.
I believe in Nelson Mandela's vision. I believe in a vision shared by Gandhi and King and Abraham Lincoln. I believe in a vision of equality and justice and freedom and multiracial democracy, built on the premise that all people are created equal and they're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights.
South Africa remains a country of stark contrast, and from social to economic inequality, the challenges it faces today shows just how much Mandela's vision still matters. Robin Adams, TRT World.
Well, for more on this, let's go to independent economist Thabi Leoka, who joins us now from Johannesburg. Good to have you on the program. Firstly, in the first decade of the ANC government, things looked quite promising for South Africa. Inflation fell, as did the budget deficit and interest rates, and there was more foreign investment flowing into the country. So what has gone wrong since?
You know, South Africa's economy has been progressing slightly compared to previous years. So I think that where we had the dip in economic growth was in the past 10 years. And it was started really by the financial crisis in 2008 and 9. But we haven't really recovered in the same pace as other emerging markets. And it also didn't help that we didn't really adopt any of the policies that we put in place, especially the NDP, the New Development Plan, which was supposed to be the growth path to sustainable growth. We also haven't done the necessary reforms that this country is supposed to go through in order for us to trigger growth. And that's why, as per your clip before this interview, that the unemployment rate remains very high at around 26%. Inequality gap is inequality is high. the gap keeps widening. These are all part of the reasons, the legacy of the past. But the current government, it will try or has promised that it will turn things around.
Yes, you mentioned some interesting points there, but let's look at the issue of unemployment first. As you mentioned, it currently stands at over a quarter of the population, with youth unemployment double that. And as we know, rampant unemployment was a problem under Apartheid, but things don't seem to have recovered as well in terms of the jobless rate. What can be done in that respect?
Yeah, so the South African economy was one that did not cater for the total population at large. So the apartheid economy was for the very few. So when things started opening up, the economy started opening after 1994, it had to accommodate the majority of South Africans. So the pace of that accommodation has been slow, and that's why you have this huge unemployment rate. I think, there are major policies that the government can put in place. I think it starts off with education, especially basic education. Basic education in South Africa has been very weak. And if you look at the pass-through or the throughput from someone who is 5 years old all the way through to the last year of high school, the numbers don't coincide. So there's a huge dropout rate from the junior school all the way to high school. I think that's the number one problem. We're not getting it right. The other thing is that we need vocational training for those who are who are unemployed, don't have a tertiary education, but can be upskilled. So we need to upskill those so that they can become entrepreneurs on their own. We also need to promote small and medium-sized enterprises so that many South Africans who may not have the means, may not be able to get a credit extension from the banks, can get support from the government. And we saw this happening in Asia during the Asian development, where the Asian development banks played a significant role in supporting businesses, local businesses.
Okay.
And I think we need.
Yeah, so sorry to interrupt you there. Now, just briefly, Cyril Ramaphosa, who's only been the president for a few months after taking over from the scandal-plagued Jacob Zuma, he's a successful businessman in his own right. Is he the right man to put South Africa back on track?
Well, we'll have to see. So far, so good in terms of the commitment to turning South Africa around. He, unlike our previous president, Jacob Zuma, Cyril Ramaphosa doesn't come into the presidency tainted with corruption cases and money laundering and racketeering. As you said earlier, he was a successful business person. He's a lawyer by training. He was a Secretary General of the ANC. He understands the unions because being the Secretary General of one of the biggest unions in South Africa. So he is on paper very good. That's right. Challenge.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but obviously there's still a lot of hope there for his presidency. But Thabi Leoka, I want to thank you for your insights.